Hello there, welcome to the Shoegazing 93 channel. I have been on holiday recently on a brilliant European trip from Denmark to Denmark, Germany and Belgium. It was incredible, had a really great time. So today we are talking about the 30th anniversary of Slowdive's seminal record, Souvlaki, which you can see right behind me there, the official 1993 poster. And it's got the tour dates, the UK tour dates there in the bottom right corner. So yeah, this album really needs no introduction in the shoegaze dream pop community. It was produced by Ed Buller, who ironically just worked on Suede's debut album, and ironically that was like one of the albums that kind of drove the shoegaze scene out. And it was like they were the new kids on the block, that debut album in '93 by Suede. It was kind of like that was a new guard that was coming in for the mid '90s. So ironically, they got him to produce it, but he also worked with Spiritualized. So there's the kind of shoegaze connection because Ed Buller, obviously, I mean, Spiritualized are like, they're not quite shoegaze, they're more like just straight up psychedelic rock, but they are always like linked in with that, associated with the shoegaze scene, the shoegaze adjacent kind of band, anything to do with Jason Pierce, who was in Spacemen 3 before, is shoegaze adjacent, is always associated with the scene, the genre. And then also you had Brian Eno was working on it, and obviously a few years before he did Actum Baby and Joshua Tree by U2. And so he worked with Flood, aka Mark Ellis, who produced Curve and the Smashing Pumpkins in the 90s. So Brian Eno, obviously, he was like the godfather of ambient, with like Here Come the Warm Jets, and like the Green Album and stuff like that. And Neil Halstead, when he met Eno, he had no idea that he was the godfather of ambient, as you can hear on that Pitchfork documentary regarding this album. I'll probably put a link below, actually, in the description of this must-see Pitchfork documentary that you need to watch, really, to really understand it. And it will probably explain it better than I am doing. So I highly recommend the Pitchfork Slowdive documentary. And Brian Eno, he worked on the songs Here She Comes and Sing. Sing has a real trip hop kind of feel to it, and he did the keyboard sounds in that song. But yeah, Neil Halstead had no idea he was like the godfather of ambient when like he arrived at the studio. He just knew him from his work with David Bowie. So yeah, that's quite an interesting fact I learned there. So yeah, I recently did a 30th anniversary playthrough on my Ocean City radio, which you can see right now on the screen. And lots of people enjoyed that. And yeah, so the great news is that it would be so amazing if Slowdive actually released their new album on the anniversary of Souvlaki. So 1st of June, I believe it came out in 1993. Although some sources are saying 17th of May, which I don't really understand, but more sources are definitely leaning towards the 1st of June date. It was released on Creation Records, obviously. You see the logo there, got it signed by Alan McGee. I think Dick Green was probably a more vocal supporter of the group, really, because Alan McGee actually rejected a lot of their demos for this album. And Neil Halstead had to like hire a real small like cottage like in the middle of nowhere in Wales. And that's when like most of the introspective songs actually came from. It was like Neil had just split up from Rachel Goswell, the lead singer. Because they were an item, they were a couple in the period of their first album, just for a day, which you can see up here. That's their first album, where like Neil and Rachel were a perfect couple, and they were leading the they were like the front people of the band, pretty much. Even though there's not really such a thing in shoegaze music, it's kind of like everybody's like this like one unit, more so than most other genres. Yeah, so I think out of that kind of sadness of the breakup and the remoteness of the new location that he was based in, I think Neil came up with like Dagger, and he came up with Allison. Um, he came up with a lot of the big songs for the album, and it kind of saved the album really, because I think the rest of the band really like out of ideas, and they were really paranoid about what direction they were going to go into because of the bad press they were getting at the time. And even though this album didn't get bad press, but what I respect about Slowdive is that they still carried on, and they made something even more experimental in Pygmalion in 1995, which went even like it went even more obscure, more post rock, more kind of spacious. Like not, it wasn't the full wall of sound anymore, but it was like more sort of art rock, kind of leaning towards like Radiohead. And but I mean, what is so great about yeah, like I was saying, it'd be amazing if they would if Slowdive now would drop at least a single on that anniversary, 1st of June, which I reckon they might be doing, because Neil Halstead had a podcast recently for some indie radio station, and he said that the songs are finished, but I'm not sure whether that means they are mixed and mastered and published and all the rest of it. But he says they are finished, which is still a bit in usual shoegaze style. It's very cryptic because it could be just like maybe the sketches of the songs are finished for all we know. But you know, you can't really rush these things with the shoegaze bands, can you? I mean, like My Bloody Valentine take like 20 years to release stuff, and like Swerve Driver have just like disappeared off the face of the earth. I mean, I kind of feel that the 2010s revival was like that's kind of all like done now. Like now we're in the 2020s. It's like maybe the bands aren't so keen really to release stuff. They don't really like the 2010s was their time, and now they think people are moving on to something else, perhaps, like mumble rap or or like it'd be like AI music in a minute, which is really super super scary. I don't support any of that. That like AISIS thing they came out with. I just don't. I really like that band's songs, by the way, their original songs. But I just really hope this AI thing is not the way forward, and I don't think it will be, because you're not going to be able to. You're not going to pay, are you, to see robots live? Um, you want that human element in there. Everybody does. So it's never going to take off. I mean, yes, it's all happened in the past. Like people have said, like, "Oh, this is never going to happen. This is never going to happen." But I definitely can't see AI happening. Like, I mean, a lot of this stuff wins eventually. I understand. When there's money riding on stuff, then it normally wins. But then I just can't see people just turning up to like gigs where it's like just a laptop playing the music, and I mean, I understand that DJs kind of do that, but DJs are, it's much more to it than what you think, and I have more respect for DJs than you may think, and I mean that's perfect. The DJ scene and stuff is perfect. AI is a different ball game altogether, really. But anyway, I'm sort of digressing a little bit there. That's my kind of Rick Beato inspired rant. Yeah, God bless Rick Beato, what a legend, and James Hargreaves as well. Big shout out to you guys. I really like your videos, inspiring me. So yeah, I just really hope that Slowdive, basically the bottom line, I hope that it would be great if they coincide this new album, which has been declared as finished by Neil Halstead. It would be amazing if it coincided with the anniversary, and kind of it'd be a great kind of symbol of how like Slowdive have really worms their way out of the negative press in the 90s, and now they're like, these days they're really respected, and it would be a great symbol of that against all odds rise that they've they've had over the last 10 years, since they reformed in 2014. It would be like really kind of symbolic of that, like there we were, here we are now, like that big contradiction between the way they were received by the public and the critics. And I really hope it should be a really good album as well, because they've had so much time to do this. Albeit they had obviously COVID, or the lockdowns that happened in 2020, but I'm sure they must have some good stuff by now. And apparently Neil said it's going to be quite electronic, which I think will be perfect, because Slowdive have proved that they can do electronic music really well with the 5 EP that they released a few months after Souvlaki in December 93. Um, so it just shows, like songs like In Mind, Good Day Sunshine, Country Rain, those songs show that Slowdive can do that electronic side really well. That kind of ambient techno, almost Aphex Twinny kind of stuff. And IDM, yeah, it's like kind of IDM, I guess. Um, but it's really good. I mean, you should listen to the gigs and that for '93. Like that coincided on the tour for Souvlaki. It's some really great stuff. Like the Oslo, there's like an Oslo gig on YouTube, which has really really good high fidelity audio quality to it. So I really recommend checking that out. It's like Live at Oslo 1993. And there's also a couple of really good London gigs as well, where they actually play In Mind live, using guitars. And Good Day Sunshine as well. I think it's a December '93 gig. So they just released the 5 EP, and then they did like a London gig. like Clapham Junction or something like that. Really worth checking out on Slowdive Bootlegs, the YouTube channel. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that gives you a good insight of an album that really, to a lot of people, doesn't really need an introduction. But to those who do need an introduction, then yeah, here's my 2 cents really, and you should go listen to it and support Slowdive's new album when it arrives, which should be this year, but because they're a shoegaze band, it could be 2033, it could be 2043. Yeah, that's why we need some new blood on the scene, really. Some, especially in the UK, definitely need some more bands out there in that vein of style. So yeah, take care, guys. Obviously wearing my Souvlaki t-shirt today. And yeah, so keep shoegazing on, and see you again. Cheers. Bye.